Hi everyone, my name is Chloe Mistagi and I'm so happy to be here with you guys and also to be part of Hacktivity. So thank you to Hacktivity's crew and HackerOne for having me. And today we're going to talk about burnout. So I'm going to share my slides, so hold on one second. All right, so you're wondering, Chloe, I don't understand. It's about burnout. Why is it called active balance? Because the reality of it is when we have our personal life and our work life, when they're not in balance, that's when we get burned out. So this talk, we're going to talk about burnout. So first things first, if you don't know who I am, my name is Chloe Mistagi. I'm the VP of Strategy over at Point3 Security. And when I'm not doing that, I'm also an ethical hacker advocate. And if you're wondering what is that, I'm someone who looks in the community and asks the community, what are their needs and how can I help? And just by asking that, I work on trying to push for changes when it comes to the media, when they are giving attention towards the hacker community, making sure that they know a difference between a cyber criminal and a hacker, but also to try to work with politicians to try to change the legislation that we have. When I'm not doing that, I'm also thinking about how can I increase diversity and inclusion in our field as well. I'm also the president and co-founder of WOSEC, Women of Security, and also the founder of We Are Hackers, which is formerly also known as Women Hackers. And we're a private community online that's all around the world, basically for those that are underrepresented genders that hack at all levels. I also run the Hacker Book Club. We run a new book every month. And for every month that we do have the author join us, and also those that are mentioned in the book do join our meetings. We have a meeting every week at 5 p.m. Pacific time on Tuesdays. And then last but not least, I'm also part of the ITSP magazine's The Uncommon Journey podcast with Alyssa Miller and Phil Wiley. And yes, I am on Twitter and Instagram, and my DMs are open. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always having my DMs open. So what I want to first do is I want you to imagine that you're driving in a car. Now you're going to merge into the left lane. But at this moment, you're thinking to yourself, should I even look in my mirror? Because if I don't look in my mirror and there's a car behind me, I might get in an accident. Then I don't have to do that task or assignment and I could get out of it. That means I don't have to go to work, maybe. That means that I just don't have to do that project, or I can at least postpone that project because I cannot handle anymore. So I'm going to go through different scenarios such as that one with you. And each one of these scenarios are examples of burnout. It used to take you, for example, in this screenshot, it used to take you maybe a few minutes to respond to an email. Now it takes you 10 minutes to an hour, sometimes hours, sometimes days. And you realize every email just seems so hard to respond to, even though it used to take you hardly any time at all. This is usually my big sign when I'm starting to feel like I'm getting burned out, is that I get really behind on emails in a sense where I don't have a zero inbox anymore. Another way you can start noticing your burnout is when you have your family, your friends, your colleagues calling you or texting you, and yet you don't respond for hours, maybe days. And this is one of those things that you know when you have a personal life and a work balance situation, because we see people, when you're burned out, we see people as tasks. So every person who calls you is a task that you have to complete. Every time someone texts you, it's another task on top of your ever-growing list of tasks. And so keep that in mind as well. Another symptom of burnout is when you have this suddenly sense of maybe trappedness or emptiness, or you feel like you could easily get angry or easily get sad just by looking at your tweets or anything. Like anything can make you have these sudden urges of emotion. Or you procrastinate. I know many of us have. Okay, let's raise our hand. Yeah. I know those assignments back in school. Yeah, we procrastinated. But the thing is that also when you push out dates or you're like, oh, well, I could just do this some other time, there's a real difference when you are burned out is when you are dreading and you can't sleep because you have something to do, but you have no energy to work on it. And like I said, no energy, no matter how many hours of sleep you get, you just feel so tired. You just can't handle how tired you are. Now, I just want to put out there, if you are feeling really tired, no matter how many hours of sleep you get, please go see your doctor because they need to check your vitals. For example, for myself, I felt low energy, so I asked my doctor to check me for iron and vitamin B and vitamin D levels in my blood. And so it came back that my iron levels were a little bit low, and so I just had to address adding more iron to my diet, and I immediately, within a few days, saw a huge burst of energy. So make sure you see a doctor, get your vitals checked if you're also feeling tired. This is always a good way to know whether or not it's something going on with mental health or it's a physical body. And because when you don't have either one of those treated, it affects the other. So yes, we're going to talk about burnout, and overall, the big takeaway of burnout is the feeling as if you have a battery in you that hasn't been charged and you're at the very last part of that percentage, or the red, like in this image. And I just want to clarify once again, I am not a therapist, but I have worked with therapists to help hackers battle with burnout, because our industry, we're working 24/7 around the clock. We don't really get breaks. And even when we want to take a break, we can't because we feel guilty if we take a break because it's going to put more pressure on our team. So I just want you guys to know that I'm not a therapist, but I have worked with therapists to try to help others. And right now with COVID-19, even though we were dealing with burnout beforehand, a huge issue with that, it's getting much worse because now we also have emotions involved and we're working from home. So overall, what is burnout? Burnout is the state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by an excessive, prolonged stress. It occurs when you feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands. Now, there is a quiz link right down there, and I want you guys to be aware of that this works really, really well if you're unsure if you like your job. Now, if you love your job, you love the work that you're doing, this quiz may not work for you. I just want to let you know ahead of time on that. But it's a good starter to see where you lay when it comes to if you're burnt out. Now, there's a difference between a burnout and stress that I would like to iterate at this time. Stress is like, oh, if I take a bubble bath or I have a glass of wine, I'm going to feel better. Now, the thing is with burnout is you could take all the bubble baths and drink all the wine, but it's not going away. What it means is that you need to take a break. Like everything around you feel trapped, you feel empty, you feel stuck. And that feeling of exhaustion is burnout. Stress is different. Stress is like, go away. Burnout it can take a lot of time to heal from. Usually when we say how to prevent burnout, we usually go to right away, which is the exercise, eat a balanced diet, practice good sleep habits, ask for help. Those are all wonderful, except we're dealing with a pandemic and it's very hard to do any of those things. And so I just want you guys to know that it's okay if you can't, just try your best on that. For example, practice good sleep habits is really hard right now because I know many of us are struggling with insomnia because the thing is that humans, we like to feel like we have control over life. We like to have the sense that we can predict what lies ahead, even though, let's be real, we never can. But there's still a part of us that wants that. And so the thing is that when everything seems like it's out of our control and the world just seems like a mess, we're going to take on something, and it's definitely some emotional turmoil because we're dealing with a very surreal situation. Exercise, for example, you can do that at home. You can do jump jacks. You can learn how to do some awesome dance moves. You can eat a balanced diet as much as possible, but it's also hard if you can't go to the grocery store as often, and that's okay. But honestly, I think the one main thing to take away from here is ask for help. Have that good relationship with your manager if you're employed, or ask your friends and family if you need support. So we're going to talk about how to bounce back. And now I should let you know, I have dealt with burnout many times in my life. So I hope that these tricks help you because they've helped me. So the first thing is you have to be self-aware. You have to know if you're feeling overly exhausted. In other words, if you feel like it's taking you more than a few minutes to respond to an email, now it's taking you for such a long time, or you purposely ignore phone calls and text messages because you see them as tasks, I think it's time for you to come to some clarity, which is you might be dealing with some very beginning burnout. If you ever feel the sudden sense of trappedness, also know that this is something to be concerned about. So have that self-awareness is going to be really important. And I really recommend journaling. And I know that sounds kind of weird to do as an adult, but honestly, journaling every day or once a week even can help you because you'll start seeing patterns. And when you start seeing those patterns, then you know exactly what you need to start working on. So take this time to make a list of things that you enjoy outside of InfoSec and things that you enjoy in InfoSec, and just remind yourself that these are some positive things going for you. Another way how to have that experience of having some more positivity in your day is when you wake up, think of 3 things that you're grateful for. And when you go to sleep, think of 3 things that you're grateful for. Or if you just do it once a day, that's totally okay. But this is a really important thing, is to constantly remain optimistic while we're in a really dark time, and it'll help us out. Now, a lot of you guys know that I do take breaks from my devices. I do this thing called device detox. And I know it sounds like a goop thing, but it's not. Basically what I do is I take a break from my devices. Not saying throw it on the ground and destroy it or throw it in the water, because there are times when I definitely see tweets and I'm just like, everything's on fire and I want to throw my phone or my computer, but that's not what we should be doing or thinking of. Instead, just turn it off. So I always do this thing where I make sure I take 1 day off a week where I do nothing InfoSec related. I highly recommend it. If you could do it for a whole day, do it. If not, do it for like 4, 6, or 8 hours. But just note that when you turn off your devices, get off social media and everything, make sure to let your loved ones know that you're going offline from this hour to that hour so they're aware of it. This is important for them to know that you're trying to take care of yourself, but also for them to be aware of, in case of emergency, you're not going to pick up and you're not trying to ignore them deliberately. Now, the thing to note is that if you are burned out right at this moment, which many of you guys are, I do recommend taking more than 1 day. I use a 1 day break a week to recharge my batteries because I went through a good number of days for rest. So think about it this way, take 1 day a week to prevent burnout, but if you're dealing with burnout, take longer than 1 day. I recommend doing 3 days or more if you can. Write it down is another great thing. So I always keep a list with me at all times, okay? And this list, I write down my personal, I do my work stuff on there. Like, I have a to-do list of anything that is a task that goes through my mind that I need to do, I write it down. So then it frees more room in my head so I can be more present for other things. Because usually when we have a to-do list that's like ever growing, we just kind of get in this moment where we're not listening anymore. We're just focused on all the things we need to do. And this also is an issue when it comes to sleep. So when we're thinking right before bed, oh my God, I have to do that thing, or oh, I gotta send that email, that's gonna disturb your sleep cycle because you'll wake up in the middle of the night or you'll wake up early because of it. So just have it with you at all times and write down whatever you need. It really does help, but also it feels amazing when you cross it off. So don't get too anxious when you see the list, because it also gives you an idea of how many things you've taken on, and maybe start thinking of ways how to reduce that load. Burnout is also a time for you to invest. Examine your personal values and goals, and basically try to understand, are you happy where you work right now? And that's the thing to think about, because you should have a supportive environment no matter where you work. A good manager is someone who wants to see you go beyond them. And if you don't have that, and you don't have that good communication with a manager, it may be a time for you to switch a manager or ask for a different manager, or it might be a good time to look elsewhere. And I know it's hard to find a job in the middle of a pandemic, but honestly, we're also in InfoSec and there's unlimited amounts of jobs out there. So keep the job that you have, but start looking. And I also want to let you guys know that if you are dealing with a situation, I recommend telling your manager that you need to take a few days for personal use. And I know some of us are like, oh, but these are my holidays. I only get a certain amount of days. You shouldn't care about that. Don't hold on to these days as if they're like really special. You should wait till the end of the year or something like that. Don't do that. Because let me tell you what happens when you don't take time off. You put everyone else at risk. That means you put yourself at risk. And by doing so, you're putting your work at risk because other people are relying on you. And how can you deliver if you don't have the energy to deliver on time or be 100% there and cognizant of everything? Because when we're burnt out, we're like running on a 2-hour sleep cycle. So it's very hard and it puts your entire security team at risk. So talk to your manager about that. Make sure that after you have that conversation, send an email saying, thank you for meeting with me and all this and for clearing my few days. Keep a paper trail, everyone. I mean it. HR doesn't always have your back, unfortunately. And so this is a thing for you to invest in yourself by taking care of your needs and making sure that you are being counted for on your team. Now, I want to also let you know, if you're someone who's underrepresented on your security team or in your office, chances are you're going to feel burnout a lot faster than most. And the reason for that is because you're constantly having to prove that you deserve to be there, and you're going to be scrutinized even more when you take time off or whenever you do something that's wrong. So the burnout level is a lot higher, and also it'll come on a lot faster. So the best thing is really do a to-do list, prioritize, and have that good relationship with your manager to let them know when they're assigning you tasks that are not part of your job. And also when you do have flexibility and free time and you see other people on your team struggling, ask if they need any help and if you can help, because teams, we work together. We don't work on our own always. So last but not least, the main takeaways here is when you feel overwhelmed, do a device detox. Once again, take 1 day or more than 4 to 6 hours a day, once a week. Just turn off everything. That means get off social media. When you feel overwhelmed, invest in yourself. You need to do something that's outside InfoSec. I really do mean this. Take 1 day a week to do something that is not InfoSec related, because you have a life outside of InfoSec. And I know that's really hard to do when you're a hacker and whatnot, but you need to invest in yourself outside of InfoSec too, to keep your sanity. When you feel overwhelmed, ask for help. Really ask your friends, family, your colleagues, your manager, ask for help. We will never get to where we need to go in life if we don't ask for help and if we don't help others. Also, when you feel overwhelmed, write it down, journal it, write a to-do list is going to help you out. When you feel overwhelmed, take a break. Like I said, if you feel like you want to prevent burnout, take 1 day a week off of all devices or take time off from devices. Now, if you already are experiencing burnout, I do recommend taking more than 3 days off to try to recharge your batteries. And for some, it'll take a whole week, sometimes 2 weeks. So keep that in mind. When you feel overwhelmed, put yourself first. You cannot help another individual when you are not doing well yourself. And I know that's one of those things that but I want to keep helping people. Don't help someone out. It's like the energy that you have is so small when you're burned out that you need to use it for yourself to recharge your own battery so that you can be there and be a better supportive person. Because if you help anyone else, it's not going to be a full you. It's going to be a partial you in helping. So keep that in mind. I know we feel guilty when we take breaks or when we take time off, but it's needed. Last but not least, please note that you are not alone. You should never feel isolated or alone in the hacker community. We are there for each other. I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for everyone in this community, and probably the same for you as well. And most importantly, always ask the question, am I balancing my work and personal life? If not, it's time to take steps to fix it, because that means you've already started to go towards the burnout or already in burnout. And last but not least, I wanted to thank you guys so much for existing and for being part of the bug bounty community. I have to admit, it is such an honor to work with many of you guys and also to be part of the bug bounty community. If it wasn't for bug bounty and vulnerability disclosure, we would be so far behind as a hacker community, because it is really the bug bounty community and the vulnerability disclosure community, both of them are actually together, to be honest, that has changed the way that people view hackers. And it's about time that people start seeing us as people that are good and that are the everyday heroes. So once again, thank you guys over at Hacktivity and HackerOne for having me, and thank you guys, and I hope everyone's staying safe. And if you really do need anything at all, please don't be afraid to reach out to me. My DMs are open on Twitter and Instagram. So thank you guys again, and stay safe and stay well. Bye-bye now.